Catherine Zeta-Jones has been a famous stage actress in England, but it was the film The Mask of Zorro that transformed her into a star. Next came a role opposite Sean Connery in Entrapment, and The Haunting soon followed. For her most recent role as a naive wife of a drug lord in Traffic, she persuaded the director Steven Soderbergh to rewrite her part to accommodate her pregnancy. Recently, she married one of her co-stars in Traffic, Michael Douglas, and gave birth to their son, Dylan. I'm pleased to welcome her to this table.
Nice to see you, Charlie.
Nice to see you. Tell me about coming to this movie, because there was this interesting thing that you and Steven Soderbergh did, which was to figure out that the fact that you were pregnant made it better.
Yes, Steven asked me to do the project. Unbeknownst to him, I was pregnant. And I read the material, and I really wanted to work with him. And I said to Michael, I said, I think my pregnancy will help this. And he went, absolutely, get on the phone and tell him. I said, well, is it okay that I can tell him this confidential stuff that we've been trying to keep from everybody? Right. Not even my mother knows. Yeah. And he said, yes. You know, he was very, very supportive of that. And so when I spoke to Steven and I said, look, I am pregnant. Keep it quiet. If you think the idea is terrible, I completely understand. But what about if I play her pregnant? I think it would add a vulnerability. It would give her another dimension that, you know, when somebody of the character that I play, when she turns around so quickly, when the stakes are down and she really wants to fight for what she thinks is hers and rightly hers, this being pregnant actually helped that and gave me an instinct that I never had before, this kind of maternal desire to protect, you know, and so I could use that, and I was just flattered to be part of that ensemble.
Does this role offer you something you think that's important for you in terms of the evolution of an actress?
Absolutely. I think there's a preconception of what I do in movies, which is very good. Thank you very much. Right. I enjoy doing those movies. And
Zorro and Entrapment.
Absolutely. They've been fantastic for me, and it's given me an audience out there, and I love doing those movies. But sometime along the line, you have to, as an actor, just break away from the mold, from the preconception of what you are and what you do on screen and what you get paid for and what the studios who pay you, who make the money that when they're successful, want you to do. And so if anything, just being liberated, the liberation of being 6 months pregnant, of using my own accent in this and working so intimately with the camera, of having a real sense in the moment, I hope will just put me in a different light, as well as doing the other things.
Yeah, but it opens you, what it does though is it opens for those people who are lazy to the idea or the possibilities of what you can do.
Absolutely. As a British actor coming to the States, I was adamant about doing, I mean, it sounds ridiculous now that I've done a movie that I'm so proud of that I just speak with my own accent. I was adamant to make myself from nowhere. I was adamant to do the Spanish accent in Zorro, to play American Entrapment, so that it broadens my horizons for what is offered to me. You have to try and prove to people that you can be convincing as an American or as a certain person from any territory in the world. So I was so adamant to do that, only for that very reason of broadening what gets put on my desk. So I hope that I couldn't believe that Steven wanted me in the movie. I was like, to be really honest with you, I was like,
where did it come from? From having seen Entrapment, or having seen?
And Zorro. And I was the first person cast in the movie, and then it went
before Michael.
Yeah. Actually, it came to Michael, and he turned it down.
He turned it down first.
Yeah, and then it came to me.
Sort of went to Harrison Ford, who added something to it.
And Michael was very right. He said that the character wasn't fleshed out enough, and I know that Harrison did work with Steven on that, and then Steven worked with that with Steve Gagan, the screenwriter. And then it came back to Michael, and it wasn't because his wife was going to be in it. He just wanted, the character.
It wasn't because he wanted to be where you were?
No, because he came, and I was working.
He would have been there anyway.
We were in different times, different situations, different cities. So he came and looked after his wife, who was 6 months pregnant, played a bit of golf on the way. Yeah. I'm sure if San Diego wasn't such a golf place, he wouldn't have been so quick as coming down to join the wifey. But he did, and then he was in Cincinnati, but I was the first, and I hung in there when the studios were changing a bit. Then USA and IEG stepped up and had the balls to do this kind of movie, knowing what the effect it would have, I think. And
the balls to do this kind of movie because there's a long history of movies about drug trafficking not doing well at the box office.
I think there's a long history of
Except
movies.
for French Connection, perhaps.
Yeah, and it's great to be associated with that. You know, it's great to think that this is the godfather of drug movies. You know, and it's kind of weird that, you know, I'm in a drug movie, and I say to my family who think like I thought before I did this movie, drugs are bad.
Yeah.
A blinkered view of bad people sell bad drugs in some ghetto downtown, a part of the city that I never go to, and that's the end of the story. It's not part of my life, so I will completely ignore it. And the reality is, that Stephen opens it up to what exactly it is. And that is on the border. On the border strokes. This is happening next door in affluence. This is happening to grade A students. This is happening in everyone's lives. It's not just a social area or an ethnic area. And that's what I think has opened it for me, and I think that everyone should see the movie.
Let me just look at the number of famous families in America that have been touched by drugs.
Oh, my family included. My family, you know, the Douglas family too, and it's something that, I mean, I look at my son, to be really honest with you, and I think, God, 15
This is young
years.
Dylan.
Young Dylan.
Now 6 months. Oh, how old is he?
He's 4 months.
4 months.
And he has like 4 pounds on each cheek. He's just delicious. He's the love of my life.
No
apart
kidding.
from my
No
husband.
kidding.
And I look at him and I think, my God, 15 years from now, my son could be the most vulnerable. You know, he is a child who is the son of Michael Douglas and the son of me and the grandson of Kirk Douglas. And I really do believe, and I speak from just what I know from my family, that it's important to instill a kind of sense of identity, you know, and he could be the most vulnerable in 15 years because everyone says he's the son of this, you know, and it's, I think it's probably going to be harder for him to make his mark.
To find his own identity.
Whatever he
does. It's not
does.
part of his
If
mother,
he
his
wants to be a
grandfather.
vet, if he wants to go into whatever, it's finding his own identity and making him proud of what he does.
He's starting off with a trust fund, though, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. You better believe it. If anyone's going to make any cash, it's going to be my boy.
That was your idea. Don't give it to me. Give it to my boy's trust fund.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't the wedding, though, Charlie. That was because the harassment of everyone trying to get photographs of Dylan. Yeah. And a lot of people say to me, what the hell do you need the money for to give these photographs to a magazine? And I say, you know what? I know how much these people get. They got $500,000 for a photograph of me lying on top of Michael, given that it was semi-nude. And he was really happy that I was on top. They got 500 grand, which is a lot of money. And when you know how much money
but by
is
giving
involved,
access to them, the point is,
when I give the photograph, when I
everybody
submit
else who
a photograph,
tries to sneak a photograph,
the price tag is decreased considerably, and so for us, it just lessens the harassment.
Is it true that the tabloid incessant pursuit of you in London drove you away from London to
No,
Hollywood?
not necessarily so. No, there was a microscopic view of my life. They didn't get a boyfriend, they said, about my sexual, you know, differences or preferences, and it just became, you know, kind of insatiable. And what was really, it wasn't because of that. I really wanted to come to America.
To make films in America.
And make them, it wasn't only because of that, but it was an attribute. I mean,
it got unhappy and unpleasant for you at the height of the television fame.
Only because the people who were making the decisions in the very small environment of filmmaking over there, I was completely void of, because I was a TV actress, but I was much more known as being in the tabloids. And so there was a wonderful kind of rejuvenation of filmmaking in the UK that I was really not part of when Danny Boyle and all these young directors started coming up and doing interesting things. I was completely, just not, I was not even in part of their first kind of call.
Because they perceived you as a tabloid character rather than an actress.
Yeah, because of what was going on. I think people found the reality and what was written in the press and kind of made their own judgments a little too much in favor of the tabloid, interpretation of me. So that's when I decided to go. So I'm not going to be, I fled because of the tabloids, because I didn't. But I must say, because of what how that contributed to the work and the pieces of work that were coming my way, I had to come away and just start afresh.
Okay. Let me talk about this movie, and I'll come back to that in sort of the beginnings early on in Wales and then moving to London. Here's a scene in which you confront your husband, Carlos, who's played by Stephen Bauer, who's going to prison. Remember, this is a story of how the wife of a trafficker, a big-time trafficker, shows both vulnerability and then strength as she becomes very tough about the world that she lives in. Here it is.
How's David?
How's David? Oh, he's terrific, Carl. Terrific.
Oh, Helena.
He watched his father being dragged away by federal agents. He's just doing fine.
Okay.
I can't even begin to tell him where you are. And when you're coming home, if you're ever coming home.
Helena. We're gonna get through this. I promise. I'll make it up to you.
Do you have any idea what's going on out here? Huh? Our credit cards are maxed. The people in the bank, you should see the way they look at me when I walk in there. I have a letter from the government telling me anything I sell from the house will be taken against an income tax lien. Our friends. Nobody will help us. Nobody will take us in. Nobody wants anything to do with us, Carl. So you just tell me how you're going to make it up to me.
Helena.
Just tell me what to do. I'm not bringing a child into the life that I was brought up into. I won't do it, Carl. I want our life back.
I assume the message of this, and you tell me what the message is. I mean, this is a first-rate film, and already people involved in the film, especially the director, are getting big-time awards. Steven Soderbergh for Traffic, but also lots of terrific performances. The story in the end is, it gives you a sense of the roughness of the drug trafficking trade. Not a new idea, but it also shows you, because of the character Michael plays, that no one, no household, no place is safe.
No.
And sometimes we need to deal with those problems at home that are part of the demand side in order to deal with the drug issue.
It's a great line that Michael says in the movie where somebody says about his daughter, who's played brilliantly by Erica.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. And he says to Michael, you know, what is your kid on? And Michael kind of, as character, just goes, what do you mean? She's a grade A student. No, you don't understand. No, my daughter is not a drug addict. She was just part of a group, basically, is what that scene's about. And it's something very dismissive about it. And also what I like about what Stephen did with the movie was that there's an indefinite end, because you really can knock it down somewhere and it's going to pop up somewhere else. And even with my character and, the way that my particular story ends, along with Don Cheadle and Louis Guzman, there's something so indefinite about it that it's going to carry on.
That's right. I mean, they almost say that. I mean, the whole movie suggests that whatever happens to these people, drug trafficking is going to continue because there's an incessant demand for drugs in America.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. Take a look at this. This is another scene for you in which you are attempting to arrange the assassination of an informant who will keep her husband in prison. Roll tape.
They're coming this way. Todos están ahí. Pass me now. Boy, there's a lot of them.
Listen, would you mind if we walk back to the hotel bay?
Walk back?
Yeah.
So they're not getting into the car.
What are they doing?
They're arguing or something.
It's 2 blocks. I could use the fresh air, I've been stuck in that piece of hotel room for 2 weeks.
Let's just stop standing around and go.
I'm gonna walk because I want to
Let's
walk,
walk.
not because he wants to walk, okay? We'll walk.
They're going past me. I do not know. I think they're going back to the courthouse.
This could be the last chance to do this. Now get out of the car and shoot him in the head. Just shoot him.
Back in Wales.
Yeah.
born in this little town called Mumbles, a seaport, not a port, a seaside village.
Seaport, seaport.
Your dad ran a candy factory?
Yes, he did.
Your mother taught some, or?
My mother was a seamstress, and consequently was able to zip up any fashion number that I ever saw in a magazine, and a homemaker, and looked after me and my two siblings, my brothers.
Who are now both in Hollywood, aren't they?
We're doing so well and so proud of
them.
them.
Are they part of Milkwood Productions?
My younger brother is the chief director of Milkwood Productions with me, and my elder brother is how I got my deal with IEG, who are the producers of this movie too, and that he's part of the IEG team, who is an international distribution company, as well as now financing Traffic and Gangs of New York with Scorsese and with DiCaprio, and doing particularly well. So I'm very proud of them. You know, it's like hard when it's like your brothers and you want to give them a break. And I always knew they had talent for this. They're very good at writing, very good at material and reading, and finding, knowing great film buffs, the both of them. So nepotism for us is like, I don't care. Nepotism is good.
Yeah, your dad alive?
Yeah, very much alive.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So Michael had to go see your dad.
And my dad's younger than Michael.
I know. To say, your last name was
Jones.
Was Jones, right?
Yeah.
And the Zeta you picked up from?
I was christened Catherine Zeta-Jones.
You were?
Yeah, Zeta being my middle name.
Yeah.
And Zeta is my grandmother's name, Christian name. And I was always known as Catherine Zeta-Jones, even in school, because there were like 5 or 6 Catherine Joneses in my class.
So this was not just some Screen Actors Guild decision.
No, they've got it wrong in a few reports, no.
Yeah.
I never picked it up.
And I read something about Zeta being the name that you chose, or somebody had chose because of a ship that passed.
Yeah, my great-grandfather.
That was your great-grandfather for your
he was on
grandmother.
But you know what? He was on a ship supposedly called the Zeta. I don't know whether there was a Greek stripper called the Zeta.
That's right.
I don't know.
He may have made this up.
I don't know. I mean, we like to, us family members like to say it was a ship that sailed out of our port. I'm not quite sure if it wasn't some girl he met on his on some sea
you wanted
trip.
To remember the name.
Yeah, and he named his first child that. I don't know.
Now, was it difficult for Michael to go back and say, Mr. Jones, you know that I love your daughter very much, and by the way, I would like to marry her.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, Mr. Jones,
no,
there's
do you know how he did it?
There's something else.
It was Christmas Eve last year, and my parents knew, so we took them out. I took Michael back to Wales, which was a hoot, and it was fabulous. And then we took my parents for dinner on Christmas Eve before they had like a little soiree with friends. Introducing Michael Douglas, the American president. Oh, my mother saw rented the American president before, then nearly had a heart attack.
Was that the first movie that she'd seen other movies?
No, but she'd seen him like doing Basic Instinct or Fatal Attraction, so I thought it would be good to get Granny in a room and see the American president.
Right.
And now she thought the American president was really coming for Christmas lunch. And so Michael said, my parents knew about, we wanted to get married, and then my mother and father had a drink, and they went, congratulations, we're so happy for you, to see you both happy. And I thought Michael would slowly work into the pregnancy. No, I'm so happy you're happy because she's pregnant. Nearly died. And my mother was like, I have to cook some vol au vents tonight and some sausage rolls. I can't cook. So it was, that's the way it is. And a lot has been said about,
So it got off to a good start.
Oh, yeah. And every time he came to take me for a date, 9 months of courting, one of my family members was there. So he always had to come in and shake hands.
Proposed on his knees in Aspen, did he?
Yeah. When our noses were running, and he thought I was crying. It's just like we had such bad. This is why I had the flu shot I was telling you about. We were so sick last year with that enough. And we're both working this year, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, we haven't been working for a while, and so and it's been a bit of a year, Charlie. I must say. I don't know what's going to happen next year.
This was not a quiet wedding.
It was not a quiet wedding. It wasn't a quiet childbirth. It wasn't. This is not, which I'm really proud of, is not a quiet movie.
What did movies mean to you?
Movies to me were a glossy escapism. Fred, Ginger, Gene Kelly,
Rita Hayworth.
Danny Kaye, Rita Hayworth.
Black and white.
Black and white. And that's why I started in musical comedy. And for me, when I finished, I played the lead in 42nd Street, which is now Mark Bramble, who directed me, is now going to revive it in New York. I did that for 2 years, playing the lead. And I was only 17, 18, so it was a big responsibility. And when I finished doing that, I really woke up in the morning and went, oh my God, this is what I've been dreaming of, and I've done it. What happens now? And I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm 18 years old, and I've really fulfilled my dream. And I had. That was it. To be the lead in a West End, which is the equivalent to Broadway show, and do it for 2 years, 8 shows a week.
But not only that, to have it happen the way it did with David Merrick in the audience, and you were playing the second understudy,
and I
you're
got
on, and he says,
well,
give her the lead.
Yeah, and it was, you know, it was kind of, it was dreamlike again. It happened to Shirley MacLaine. She went and ironically enough, the Pajama Game, which I did before
happened
40
to Barbara
seconds.
Streisand.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, you know, I think you should give everybody else inspiration that this can happen to me too, because I was one of those people that when that happens in the movies, and then it happened to me.
But you make your own breaks too, as you know.
Oh yeah,
you've got to be one.
It's funny. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Exactly, and the more prepared you are, the better you can perform.
Yeah, exactly.
When did you go to London?
I was 15 years old.
To do
the a 9-month tour of the Pajama Game that rehearsed in London. And then I was 16, I went in the chorus of 42nd Street.
Now, when were you in Annie?
When I was 11 years old.
In London or somewhere else?
In London, at the...
So you went to London at 11?
Yeah, with a chaperone and tutor. But my parents didn't have to pay for it, they got it. And I was in the show. And then I did Tallulah in Bugsy Malone on stage, which was directed
12,
by
13?
Mickey Dolenz.
Yeah.
I was 14. Yeah. And Mickey Dolenz told me I had to calm it down. I was a little bit too sexy.
But at 14?
At 14,
you weren't surprised by that?
Yeah, I just, that's something I always wanted to do, you know. My parents were pretty strict. There were lots of rules.
Did you have a childhood?
I had a grown-up childhood.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to, it's so funny that my parents expected me to be grown up because I was fending for myself. And there's kind of a weird double entendre because they would never have let me go if they didn't think I could look after myself. So I think I was older than my time then. As a teenager, I was very focused. I didn't have a boyfriend or anything like that, and hanging out in street corners and smoking cigarettes wasn't really for me.
But you were burning with ambition.
Oh, yeah. Really.
Have always been.
Yeah.
And proud of it, as I am, as the people who...
Absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong
unabashed ambition to make something.
There's nothing
to work
ruthless
hard.
about it. I would never. I think there's a place and time and room for everybody. I've never been ruthless, but I've been very honest that, hey, you know, I'm from a very small town in Wales, and I wanted to do. I really knew that as much as I love and my country and as patriotic as I am, I knew that I could never. I couldn't do my work there. Yeah. So I had to go, and in a way, sacrifice a certain amount of things, which,
like?
Well, I think, you know, just growing up, pubescent, just the things that you're allowed to get away with, of being caught, or of having relationships with the opposite sex, or the same sex, the girlfriend thing and the boyfriend thing. It wasn't until I got to television in Britain where everything I did, which I should have done when I was a teenager, I had the chance to do that.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
I'm a big fan.